Hey there guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over my top 10 fantasy books / series of all time. I used to be a very avid fantasy reader. Now I'm more of a romantasy reader, but I used to read a lot of fantasy, right? And I definitely want to get more into it because I feel like there's a lot of classic fantasy series I haven't gotten into yet, so they are on my TBR. I do plan to read a lot of them, but I have quite a few that I read in the past that I still very much love and I still very much enjoy. Some of these are completed, some of them aren't, and I don't know if they ever will, okay? If there's any specific fantasy series you think I should definitely read and you think would be on my top 10 and aren't, leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to get some recommendations because I have a few in my mind that I know I need to get into, but I'm always open for new recommendations. Before we get into this, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and also to follow me on other socials. They will be linked down below. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start off from bottom up. Okay, so from number 10 all the way to number 1. Okay, and number 10 is The Name of the Wind. And if you know, you know. Okay, this series is actually insane. It is not finished. We don't know when it's going to be finished because the fucking author cannot write the last book for nothing or to save his life. Fucking hell. Okay, we've been waiting for the last one for so long, but I do think it's worth mentioning because it's still a very fun and interesting fantasy. In this book, we follow our main character, Kvot, and he is telling his story. He's like, if I'm not mistaken, he's at this like bar thing telling his story to someone else and how he became the greatest wizard of all time. And he starts from when he is very young all the way up to how he became the greatest wizard. And this story is divided into 2 books. In the Portuguese version is actually 3 because book 2 is divided into 2 parts. But there's a 3rd book that needs to come out, right? And we basically go with him through his adventures into learning his magic and just becoming more proficient in it and all of his shenanigans. I have very vivid images in my head of him like with his like violin type thing, and is it a fiddle or something? I don't know. I have ideas it's a violin, but it's not a violin. And he sells it and then he makes his money back and then he sells things and he just finds a way because he has to pay his tuition for school and he finds a way to make money. I have all of these images in my head very vividly because the story is just so interesting and he as a character is very interesting. It transports you into this world with him and it feels like you're living the adventures with him and how he's learning to use magic and to fight and his adventures throughout the various places. You just feel like you're doing it with him. That's why I have it so vividly in my mind, and it's definitely one of those fantasies that's very interesting to experience. I just want the author to finish it, so yeah. So number 9 we have Realmbreaker. Now this is I think it's one of the most simplistic ones I have here in my list, but I do think it's a very interesting one. I'm just going to use the author's way to describe the series because I think it's very perfect. This is what happens if the Fellowship of the Ring from Lord of the Rings failed their mission into saving the world, and who now has to take up the mantle and save it for them, right? And it's this group of misfits that band together and try to fight against evil and have to go around the realm and like do all of the things and save the world, right? And it's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting take on that whole adventure of like if the Fellowship of the Ring failed and what happens then, right? It was just fun to see them go through their adventures together and through all of the challenges together and like slowly becoming friends and slowly becoming this found family. Because initially they don't really like each other that much. It has a little bit, slight little tidbit of romance in it, but not really. You just ship the characters and you can see that they're interested, but that's about it. There's not much when it comes to that, but it's still a very beautiful fantasy and it's more centered on the fantasy and their explorations and the various realms and all of it. Number 8, we have Rook and Rose. Now this series is insane. It is a more complex magical system and political system. In this story, our main character is this girl that is a con artist, and she used to live in the city. She left, and now she's coming back as this like lady, and she's trying to infiltrate the noble houses so she can get money and just, you know, become rich and get a more comfortable life. You know, in trying to infiltrate this family that's actually poor and going through a lot of struggles, and she has to now help them get out of those struggles, and she gets involved in the politics of this city, right? In the meantime, we have Rook, and he is this vigilante guy that's been fighting crime and also seeking vengeance for what happened to his family. We also see his POV and what he's been up to and how he's fighting crime and how the politicians are involved in the crime and everything is mixed up, and all the way the houses are now like almost influenced by this really negative energy source, and there's the magic in it, and it all gets wrapped up in itself, and it's such a beautiful story. There is a bit of romance in this one, but I don't honestly think that it's the main focus of it. I think the main focus is the politics of it. It's the intricacies of the magic and how like our main character has to figure out through her magic and through other types of magic how what's the next step and how to save people and how to make this family, you know, not lose everything they have, and how to actually end up saving the city, all of it. And it's a very interesting concept as well in terms of the characters, because you end up falling in love with our main character. You also fall in love with characters you never thought you would care about, and you're like, why the fuck do I care about this character? And you become engrossed by them. The good guys are bad guys, the bad guys are good guys, the good guys are good and bad. It's just all very complex in so many aspects, and I think it's a very interesting story, and it's one of those books that has stuck with me for so long afterwards. I keep going back to the story over and over again, and I want to reread it because I feel like I didn't experience it to its full potential because I was so confused with everything. So yeah, it's just an amazing story. Number 7, we have Sword of Kaigen. This is a Japanese inspired world where we have this peninsula, which is the Kaigen Peninsula, where a lot of people still live in like the old swordsman's samurai era, and they live very humbly, very like back in the Stone Age almost, right? And the rest of the world is very much more advanced and more forward with technology, but they reject that, and they feel like they are what they call the Sword of Kaigen. So they are the protective barrier for the country, and they're protecting them from the other country that is the attacking country, and they're protecting them from this country's enemies, right? And so they teach their kids the art of the sword and all that comes with it, and there's this specific magic also involved in it. And this story seems like it's one thing initially, and then halfway through the book it gives a 180 and you are like, what the hell just happened? And it's such a beautiful story about tradition, about overcoming the shackles of tradition itself. It's a beautiful story about family, of growth, of evolution. It's such a beautiful fantasy, and it's just one of a kind. There really is no other book like it. It's one of a kind, and so I had to include it. And along these same lines and from the same author, we also have Blood over Brighthaven, which is number 6. And I love this story so much. So Brighthaven is the city that is protected by this dome of energy of magic, and it protects the city from this blight that affects the entire world. One of our main characters is from one of these tribes that live outside of Brighthaven, and they are running and making their way to Brighthaven trying to survive, and they're going over this frozen lake, and everyone dies except him and his niece. And they make it to Brighthaven, but they are treated like scum, like they're lesser than, because they're from a different tribe, because they're from outside of Brighthaven. So they are basically treated like absolute crap. They live in really terrible conditions. Our other character, our FMC, she's a girl that lives on the outskirts of the city, and she wants to become a magician, but magicians are only mainly men, never women, at least not the high positions, right? Not the high magistrates. And she wants to become one of those. And so she goes and does her test, and everyone is against her, but she ends up acing it, and she becomes one of the high magistrates. And she basically employs our MMC to work with her. The story then evolves from there because they end up finding out this very dark secret behind the magic and unraveling this entire society and how it works. And this book treats a lot of important topics on how women are treated, how immigrants are treated. It just addresses so many important topics, especially in this day and age. They address really important topics, and our FMC goes through so many things in her head. She has to cope with this shattering of her reality and what she thought was true, and she has to come to terms with it. And now what is she going to do? What is her next step? Who is she going to become? Are we going to like who she is or who she's not? And it's such a beautiful book. It's such a beautiful story. I just absolutely love it, and it's one of my favorite fantasies. So number 4 and 5 are basically of the same series. Number 5 is The Day of Fallen Night, and number 4 is The Priory of the Orange Tree. Priory of the Orange Tree is the main book in this series, but The Day of Fallen Night is the prequel. You can read however you want them, but for me, this is how they are. I do think Priory is better than A Day of Fallen Night, but they are both amazing fantasies, and this world itself is very interesting, and just I love what Samantha Shannon writes, so I love this series as well. In this world, you have a lineage of queens that are usually very powerful, and they rule this kingdom, and you have many kingdoms in this world, and one of the kingdoms has access to like water dragons, Eastern style dragons, right? The Western side of the maps has the more European style dragons with the wings and wyverns and things like that, right? In both books, we now have to figure out a way to, defeat the dragons. It's hard to explain because I'm trying to explain both at the same time. But either way, this is a very interesting world in fantasy. We have multiple POVs, multiple characters, multiple parts of the world that are being explored. Each country has their own specific culture and specific customs and people and history, and they're all very interconnected. The creatures are very interesting as well and very well done. There's diseases that come from being in contact with dragons. There's depth to the characters. This is an amazing fantasy world in of itself, and The Priory of the Orange Tree is definitely my favorite because we follow various main characters, and they are starting to realize that, oh, the dragons are actually active, and what can we do now? And we need to find a way to imprison them again and to prevent them from coming out, the European style ones, because those are the evil ones, right? And we need to find a way to capture them, to imprison them, because they're not good, they're evil, they're trying to take over the world, they're destroying everyone, they're attacking all the other kingdoms. And so we see how our various characters, that we fall in love with every single one of these characters, mind you, how are they going to find a way to defeat them? How is this all interconnected, this whole history? There's also a lot of secrets behind things. It's a humongous book. Both of them are humongous books, and they're so interesting, and you just get enraptured into it, and it's just an amazing story, and I love it so much. And I did a very terrible job at explaining it, but I don't know how to explain it. My mind is kind of boggled right now, so sorry, but please check it out. It's an amazing story. Okay, so the top 3 are very classic ones. They are, but I don't think they're the classic ones you might expect. So number 3 is Game of Thrones. I don't think I have to explain what this is about. If you don't know, then you don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to explain it. The books are very interesting, and I got into the series like years ago when I was in college, and I decided to read the books as well because I thought, well, the books are going to be cool and maybe they'll give me more insight. And the books are very interesting, but they are also very slow. Like, the story is so behind the TV series is actually ridiculous. You won't even imagine. Like, the story ends and Daenerys is still in the Slaves Bay. Yeah, that's how far the story, like, that's insane. And there's parts of the story that we find in the TV series are not exactly the same in the books, but it's so interesting. I loved reading it. I loved getting to know the characters in a different perspective and just getting to know the story itself. It's a beautiful story. It's beautifully written. I love it, and I cannot wait for him to continue the story, but I feel like he is under so much pressure to have the story go a certain way that I don't think he's ever going to finish it, or it's going to be very hard for him to finish it, but I do hope he does. I cannot wait to continue reading it, and it's an amazing series, and I've been loving it so far, and I do advise you to read it if you like the TV series. Please go read the books because they're very good. Number 2 is The Witcher. And this is a tough one because I absolutely love The Witcher. I love the Witcher games. I love the books. I read the books first and then I played the games. Love the games, love them so much. And then I watched the TV series, and I'm not even caught up on the TV series because to me it's really hard to like keep track of like the different worlds, because the games, at least The Witcher 3, is after what happens in the books, right? And the books, oh my god, I finished the series last year, and what the fuck was that ending? Oh my god, it would be so amazing if we had just a series-specific Witcher series. I'd love it so much. But it's just, yeah, I love the series. I read it in Portuguese, and I think that was a mistake because I think it was double translated. I think the series was translated from Polish to English and then from English to Portuguese, and I think a lot got lost in translation because I could see a lot of expressions would be better in English, and I wish I had read it in English, because I think at least it would have only gone through one translation, you know, but it is what it is. I love this series. I love the characters so much. I don't think it's the easiest thing to read because I do feel like at least the Portuguese versions at least are divided. Some of the books are divided in half, and so if you go a long time between reading them, you can be very lost on what the hell is going on. I think what helped me a lot was the fact that I already had the knowledge from the game, so I could locate myself a little bit better. But I think it's an amazing story. I just love them. I just love them so much. I love the characters a lot. I just am so enraptured into this story. I love the game. And yeah, it's just one of my favorites. Number 1 is Aragon. And when I tell you I was obsessed with Aragon when I was in school, when I first read it, I was enraptured by it. I daydreamed about it. I daydreamed of having my own dragon, of having my own sword. Oh my God, I fell in love with it so much. It's just one of a kind. If you don't know what Aragon is, which I feel like some people will know, some people won't. Aragon follows the story of this boy, Aragon, who finds an egg randomly in the forest while he's hunting. He takes it home and it hatches into a little tiny little dragon, blue dragon, that he calls Saphira. And he is now, you know, training Saphira and keeping her safe and whatever and hidden, and his village gets attacked and he has to run away with Saphira, and he goes in search of safety but also training. He needs to train and he needs to learn how to better communicate with Saphira and how can they become riders and how to fight and all of that, and this takes him into an adventure, and it takes him to so many different places but also gets him involved in a lot of the fights because the dragon riders are supposed to be, you know, defenders of the kingdom and everything, and war's coming, there's evil people about, and so he starts fighting for them as well. And the story goes from there. It's such a complex and interesting story, and I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with Saphira. I love everything about it. I was so enraptured by this story, so it's always going to be my favorite, or at least in the top 3 for me, because it just holds a very special and dear place in my heart when it comes to fantasy and dragons. And I think this is where my obsession with like dragons and things started, was with Aragon and Saphira, and if only a girl could have a dragon. We also don't talk about the movie when it comes to this series because what the fuck did they do to Saphira? She deserved better, and I refused to watch it. I didn't even watch it because Saphira looks like a lizard. She looks like a fucking lizard, not like the queen she is. So I refuse to watch it. But I just love this story so much, so it is definitely my number 1. Let me know if you've read any of these series in the past and what your thoughts were. And if you haven't, please consider taking a look at these. They are amazing, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next week for another video. Bye!